You're listening to Mark of the Maker.
This is Jeremy Marsh from Marsh Custom Knives, live from Blade Show 2019. You are listening to Mark of the Maker.
Hey everybody, I'm Mark Steiner and you're listening to Mark of the Maker, and this is our Blade Show 2019 wrap-up episode. So we were at Blade Show, 2 weeks ago now, and had a good time, and we had some observations and some conversations with people. So like last year, we have some clips and stuff that we'll share with you from the show floor, and then we'll talk a little bit about how Blade Show went and kind of what was different, what was new, and what we liked and what we didn't like, and some other stuff. So it should be a good conversation. So let's make sure we got everybody here. We have knife maker Tom Crine with us.
I'm here.
All right. And we have Sean Kendrick. How are you, man?
Hey, man. How you doing?
Good. And then we have Mr. Michael Birch.
I am here.
Who is also a knife maker.
That is correct. Some days.
Someday. When he decides he wants to be.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm a knife destroyer.
Right. All right. So let's talk about Blade Show. Well, but one of the things we should do first, we had mentioned at the end of the Etiquette Remixed episode that we were talking about setting up a Patreon. We did that. It's out there, and we'll give you details at the end of the show about what that's all about and where you can find it and some other things. But
heck yeah. I
just wanted to let people know that we did set up a Patreon for the show. We had lots of people talk to us about it. So it is out there, and if you want to help out with the show, there's a way for you to be able to do so. So we'll get into that at the end. But how was your show? How was your show, Tom? How'd things go?
The show went great. I had a great time at the show. It's always good to see everyone, and there's never enough time. But overall, great show. I felt attendance was up. So yeah, all positive.
It looked like you had lots of traffic over there. The booth was looking sharp.
Thanks, man. We really tried on the booth. That was our first run with it, and basically we loaded. I got the booth in the car basically right, but that was the first time I saw it. So I saw some pictures, but it wasn't built on site. And next year we're gonna, I've got to set up next door because basically our displays didn't really work on the booth as well, and so now we're working on trying to build displays that are specific for our booth. The shelves were different size for what we had out and everything, but overall I think it worked pretty good, and it definitely looked better than the table we usually have. So
right, it was definitely fancy, and you had a Mark of the Maker banner hanging up high.
Right, yeah, proud to have it up there, and let people know where at least one of us was.
You can't hide that podcast money.
Right.
That's right.
It shines through.
Yeah.
Heavy sarcasm on that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that Patreon later.
Right. I did have a lot of people come up to me at the show and talk about the podcast, and I had a lot of people that had only heard about me via the podcast, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
So yeah,
Nice.
it was pretty cool.
That is cool. How about you, Birch?
The show in general, I think, was different.
Yeah.
As I think we'll probably hit on some of those points later, but it was just
Agree.
different. Someone said it earlier. It wasn't that there was less people, just less people we knew. I saw a lot of the usual customers weren't there this year. I think we're all spread out. It's a different type of show than it used to be. And I think Sean said it the best not too long ago. He said it's become more of an industry show. And it seemed more apparent this year than ever before.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it had a different vibe. I mean,
the vibe is different. And I don't know if it's because of the way they release the people into the rooms. I don't know. I think we need to dig into that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a super huge fan of that, but anyways.
definitely something worth talking about.
Yeah.
One of the things that for sure is different. I mean, you're still in the same table you have been for a bunch of years, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I mean, Tom used to be like 2 rows over and 3 tables down or something, right?
Yeah.
And
A lot of
See you guys.
Yeah, there used to be a lot of a bunch of us, I guess, from the same era or whatnot in the same little area there.
Yeah.
right,
And
right.
and we've all kind of spread out. I'm adverse to change and whatnot, so I just kind of stayed there. And it's kind of a good area, I guess. I don't know how you judge a good area anymore, but everyone's kind of spread out. And then by spread out, I mean it's a long ways everywhere you go.
Right.
And what's odd is Abby and I got away, and we went to go say hi to Jeremy and his wife, and we went to go get him a beer, and we literally got lost going back to find his table.
Right, right.
And we were like, was it this one or the next one? And I mean, we really weren't drunk. And it was just like we couldn't get back to it quickly. And it was just that really kind of showed me how crazy it must be for people that are actually trying to get all the knives and get to a lottery or a first come, first serve, and how kind of tiresome it's got to be for the customers. And I guess that probably would kind of suck away a little bit of the excitement. You know, it's gotten very big and very expansive and very confusing all at the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely a different thing. I mean, I think the deal with everybody spreading out where some guys move to booths, right? And they're definitely not all in the same section. I mean, Tom and Luke were next to each other, and I guess Jeremy was close to, right across the aisle.
Yep.
But not everybody that had custom knives in a booth was in the same part of the booth area, right? They were kind of spread out, and the booth dividers are quite tall, which I get, right? I mean, you want to have space. If you are paying for a booth, there's a reason, right? Because you want to have visibility or maybe exclusivity with customers or whatever. But at the same time, there's no line of sight, right? So to your point, right, Michael, where I had the same thing where I wanted to run across on the other side of the booth to go see somebody, and coming back, it's like, wait a second, where do I turn? And I don't know. It's a little weird because it's a big place, right? And
I've been going
that booth section just keeps getting bigger.
It's not like this is my second time there. I've been going for I don't know how many years, but it's been a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of crazy to just, I don't know. It was odd. And hopefully, you know, I talked to Marsh and a few other makers about maybe doing a different change to get us all in the one area, kind of get it, you know, because we all have a bunch of similar customers. And truthfully, I don't see a bunch of my friends, knife maker friends, throughout the show as much as I like.
Right, right.
I'd like to be able to shoot the shit with them and see them and talk with them. So maybe we get some changes going next year if we can pull it together with the Blade Show staff or whatnot.
Yeah.
We shall see.
I think we got a clip with Jeremy later talking a little bit about what that might look like. So, Sean, what was your takeaway on that? Just on the show overall and the vibe and kind of how things were laid out and finding people, that kind of stuff. What was your perspective?
Well, mine's different from Tom and Michael because I had all kinds of time to walk around. I got my bearings relatively quick and didn't have too much of a problem with it. And now, crowded. It seems like every year for the past, I don't know how many years, Blade Show just gets more crowded and more crowded. And it seemed like an attendance record this year to me, especially when you consider the traffic between the main room and the second room.
There was a ton of that, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. Man, I was really surprised and pleased for the guys in the second room with the traffic that room was getting.
That place was way busy back there. It seemed way busier than last year.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
They packed it with some good makers. I think a few of them moved over there that were good makers. And I think that played a big part of that, and people actually knowing where it was this year and people embracing it. Also, I mean, the cool thing about a smaller room like that is you get the feeling of more excitement because you're more contained. So if someone, you know, across the room is excited, you'd know about it. You're not just like, oh, someone's excited a mile over there, but it doesn't pertain to me. You know, I think those small rooms kind of drive the excitement up, or, you know, I think that could be part of it.
I think it definitely helps make it feel like a smaller show.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, man, I think part of what you get there is that room has some younger, hungrier guys. They've got just a really solid fucking attitude still at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And you can feel it.
Oh yeah, I think the energy just doesn't get lost though. I think it stays there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't dissipate, as it were.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it, Sean. It feels different over there.
It's
Yeah.
more intimate.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah,
Now-
Almost more of a camaraderie also between the folks over there, it seems.
for sure.
Now, where I get confused at is, okay, so we have a lot of different things at Blade Show nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just knives, which I don't understand why it's not. But so why did it not become just one certain group of stuff in that room? Or, you know what I mean? Why did they not do that from the get-go? Why did it randomly become just some people over here, some people are over here? You know, because I saw pots and pans. I saw a lot of weird stuff. Maybe more than I don't know.
I don't know. They've had
Yeah.
the pots and pans thing for a while. They have had a lady with a speaker for years. Like,
Yeah, I
that
don't
stuff
get
drives
that.
me
This is-
crazy.
they're obviously selling enough booze. They don't need to pay the for the space. It's not like they don't have the space. They had to make more space for all the stuff. So why is it still there? Why is it becoming more flea marketed every year?
I don't know. The drill bit thing also kind of weirds me out.
Oh my God.
You know, I mean, come on. We should not be falling for the stupid ass drill through anything crap, you know.
The infomercial live.
It's not an infomercial, dude. They're doing it in front of you, all
I
right?
was like,
Exactly.
over by Spyderco. I mean, I just, that kind of stuff, I feel it cheapens the show.
It cheapens the shit out of it. And I hate to say that, but I mean, it bothers me greatly that I could almost get it if like they weren't selling enough tables and they needed a little the revenue to keep the Blade Show going, but it obviously isn't about that.
Well, I don't know because I mean I haven't talked to anybody from the show.
Well, yeah, none of
on
us.
why. But do you remember when a few years ago when they started having they had what do they call it, like the tactical section or something?
Yeah,
They called it the prepper or the gear because that's when the prepping shows were real kind of popular.
Yeah.
And so they called it the
Prep was in there somewhere.
it's a survival and prep section, but that was
Now, the
where-
word tactical was on there also, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sure they got all three of those: prepper, tactical, and survival. But it was where the Spider Crew code area
Yep.
was. They almost sectioned it off and made it into that weird thing. But I feel like that was
A nylon jungle.
Right.
paracord bracelets for days.
It may be, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if there was an intention, a purposeful intention to mix it up with the idea being, hey, this is good for the show because you know what I mean? You won't have like this squirreled away corner somewhere that nobody goes to. That was one of the comments I heard about the new room was that, you know, the one end of the new room to the right, when you came in the doors, there were booths there. And I'd heard from some people that were back in that group of booths that the traffic wasn't great back in the booths. And it might be because there wasn't something to pull them there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Now, you know, it sucks if you're the guy that they put back there to pull people back, right? Because people might not actually find you.
But that should be saying something about the thing that's being sold. It's not like someone's running back to buy a Cy-Pop and they're like, oh shit, did she say non-stick? Oh, fuck, hold on a minute.
Right.
I mean, that's not, I don't know. It just frustrates me because I feel like I see it a little bit more every year. Maybe it's because I'm getting out a little bit more or trying to get out a little bit more and look around.
Luke, hold that Cy-Pop, bro. I got to go make an omelet.
No, you guys go ahead. You see this fucking drill bit?
Yeah.
Well, and also the dude that was cooking over there, son of a bitch, come by with trays of food and gave it to everybody but me. So I wouldn't buy his pot anyways. Forget that.
Well, he saw you had Arby's.
Dude,
Yeah.
just saying. But yeah, never offered me any food either. So I'm super
Oh,
down.
no. Well, I'm there with you. Fuck that guy. You were hungry. Piss on him.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so I don't know. We don't want to talk bad about the show. At the same time, I think there's some good points to be made here, right?
This
About-
is constructive criticism.
yeah.
There you
Maybe there's a way to get people grouped together. I mean, I didn't see the signs this year. Were there signs up that said handmade, ABS, and whatever like there used to be?
I have no idea.
Well, I don't think they're doing that.
I didn't notice them. If there were, I did not see them. I don't think there were last year.
Yeah.
Every year,
I think it's just the row number, and that's that.
it gets a more like looking like a Blade Runner, scene setting when you walk in with a lot of lights and signage that you can't really read, and it's a lot. It's kind of getting a little overwhelming. Like you're talking about, the booths get taller and bigger, and
then the friggin' replicants come.
Well, I mean, maybe that's a good feedback thing. If anybody from the show listens, is in our 6 or 7 listeners that we have, that we think it makes sense to group people a little bit, right?
yeah,
Just it'd certainly be better for us, right? It'd be certainly better for me as a buyer, for example, right, to be able to get to an area where, maybe not one-stop shopping, but nearby one-stop shopping, and hit a bunch of the makers that I'm interested in.
Well, I agree, Mark, but I'm going to play a devil's advocate here, and I'm sure there is a billion jackasses that don't want to move, no matter how much sense it makes.
Right.
I mean, it's just, and I say jackasses. I mean, it's they're not. That's the wrong term, but it's like people don't want to move. If you've been somewhere, for a while, it doesn't matter how much sense it makes or how much better it would be for you. You don't want to move.
You're talking about that dick in table 16A that just won't.
well,
aren't you?
it's
I
like
wasn't going to say any names, but
well, but where would I? My thing is, before I didn't have a purpose.
Right.
Me moving somewhere just didn't make sense. And I mean, Abby and I have talked about it, and it's like, yeah, we've been there forever, but it's not like. And she's like, it's a good area, but I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter. If someone's going there to buy one of my knives, they're probably
they're going to
not.
find you.
There's probably not an impulse buy, I doubt. Or to impulsively get into a lottery or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's not quite a. But
well,
And I don't think it's good in this business to be that reliant on walk-by traffic.
no, I don't want to.
No.
I don't want. If I need to
No.
walk by traffic, I.
Yeah, Tom sees how funny that shit is, right?
Yeah.
well, and I mean, to be honest or fair, that spot that you're in is right on the end of the row, right? It's a very busy row because it's where the booths start and the tables end. So it's not a bad spot, right? If you're going to be in a table, that's a pretty fucking hot spot for a table.
Right.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. It's just, I don't know if anyone's just walking by and be like, I'm going to enter this lottery, and no idea.
That's
who this-
only
well,
$1,000, $2,000.
yeah. So I don't know. That's another thing. So that spot's usually been good for watching the crowds, sort of thing,
Right.
which is
I
like to see how people flow and stuff like that. And this year, and I don't know if it's part of the entryway, but there was no like ecstatic kind of rush. It's not like people were running, but you usually see like when the doors open, when the doors open.
Right.
And it's like this group of people that just kind of start coming in. You're like, oh shit, yeah, the show's getting ready to go. It builds off that, and it kind of carries you through.
That never happened this time.
It never happened. I never saw it. It just kind of, you just started seeing it fill up. It just kind of slowly filled up with more people, looking around, doing stuff. And I was just like, huh.
I think some of that has to do with the whole tiered entry thing.
I think very much so. I guess there was confusion by that, some of that. And what were you, Tom, you had some stuff on that, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, so Friday's my day, right? So I kind of planned it around when people were scheduled to be able to get in, because usually it's like doors open at 1 or whatever, and that people are in right then. I mean, they come in. And this time, I didn't see it, but I heard that there were still people waiting in line at 4:30, which, they extended the show hours, but I'm not a super fan of that either. I think get them in and the tier system. I know you're trying to make money or whatever, but I don't know that I'm a fan of it.
What I had heard from Billy Cho was he said that part of the hang up, it wasn't so much the get in the door part, but if people hadn't picked up their entry tickets yet, or maybe if they just came and said, oh, fuck it, I'll just buy tickets on the spot, right? And I'm not going to bother with early bird or whatever, that maybe that was the line that was the big hang up. And I don't know if that was, if they undersized it for whatever reason, maybe unintentionally, right? But the process of arriving, buy a ticket to get in, and then get in the door, that's somehow in the middle of all that, it got broken or backed way, way up.
How crazy would it be to have an app on your phone that you could buy the ticket and that's you show your phone, that's how you get in or something.
With a barcode or something.
Oh, man, I know it took Rachel forever to get in. She wasn't in until, I believe, a little after 3.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that really jams it up, and it felt really weird because I never had, you know how it is. I mean, it's like at 1 o'clock, you get a mass at your table or whatever, and I never really got that. They just kind of trickled in, and I don't know. It just felt like it sucked some of the excitement out of the room.
Oh yeah, if you're not there has to be a bit of a group excitement sort of thing going on. It's part of it. You know, and if it's not there, then no one, I mean, it makes it hard for everyone to kind of get, going to me. And that's part of the show, part of the excitement, because we all feed off each other. If, your customer's excited to see the knives, and you're excited to see the customer, and back and forth and back and forth. That's what part of it, what makes it so great.
And to be fair to the Blade Show staff, I think they've really tried to make improvements, and, the smaller room was great this year. And I just feel like whatever they did this year on getting people in on Friday just didn't work.
Well, I didn't know that people were still waiting. Like, Sean, did you say earlier that people were still waiting by 4 or something?
Well, that's what I heard. People were still in line at 4:30. That's what I heard.
I would believe it.
I didn't see it.
That's craziness. And I hold my lottery at 3:30, and I thought I was waiting long enough for that because I thought the last time people could get in was 2.
2. Yeah. And that's how
I thought, okay, that's plenty.
Me too.
Well, that's crazy. Well, shit, guys, I'm sorry. Customers out there that missed out or whatever.
So, Sean, we stepped out to go see where Rachel and Shade were, and didn't they say they had stood in line for an hour or 2 to be able to even just get their ticket to get in?
Yeah, it took a while.
So it sounds like maybe that's the same kind of thing that Billy was referring to, that people maybe were stuck waiting in line to be able to get the ticket, to be able to get in the door. I don't know. For sure, there was different stuff.
That can't happen.
No, I agree.
Well, and I'm owning that as our mistake. It won't happen to us next year. We'll be more prepared.
But part of the thing there was also there was no real clarity, I think. I mean, that's why we were very vague about, this is what Blade is doing on our Blade Show Etiquette Redux episode, was because we weren't even sure, how exactly they were doing it before the show. Mm-hmm. And we didn't, I wouldn't shit wasn't going to say anything about that would be wrong, and get somebody in later. So, I mean, there was nothing that was really clear about it. And I guess it kind of didn't work so well. That sucks.
Well,
I feel bad for customers that I didn't realize it was that kind of late or whatever.
I think one takeaway, unless they make some kind of major change, like Tom talked about, where they turn it electronic or something, I think a takeaway from that for future Blade Show goers is buy your ticket ahead of time, 1, and 2, do your best to pick up your credential Thursday night.
Oh God, yeah. Abby and I do that first thing. We put our bags down and we go get our stuff.
I think there was a lot of people that didn't do that. Like if they didn't buy an advance ticket, they thought, I'll just show up, walk up to the thing, buy a ticket, and get in. And that sounds like it was a bottleneck.
Can customers do that? Can people attending do that? I know. I mean, I don't know, because I have a booth, so I have to stand in line or at the booth line versus a table line and all that.
Yeah, you can get your pass for entrance ahead of time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. There was a separate line on Thursday night of people. I don't know if it was just early bird or just VIP, or what was VIP called this year? They had a funny name for it.
CAP? Customer Appreciation Person?
Yeah. So maybe it wasn't possible to get your regular ticket. I don't know, but at least those 2 early versions, I believe they could stand in line and get their credential on Thursday night.
Yeah, it's got to change. They got to be able to get in. And I'll be honest, I hate the stage. It makes it difficult to be fair for all the customers, because if certain people are getting in early, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, but whatever.
Yeah, there shouldn't. I don't know. We may sound very negative, and we don't know how to run a show. Obviously, we just have been to a lot of Blade shows, but it's never been.
No, man, we don't know how to run a show that size and
Yeah,
that
we don't-
scale.
We don't know.
We can do a show for us by us. That's easy.
Yeah. We don't know the pitfalls and the problems that are associated with that massive of a show. So yes, we're talking a little bit out our ass, but hopefully maybe someone will listen and take it as, some constructive criticism that these are some very real frustrations from both customers and makers.
Yeah, on our wrap up episode last year, we said hopefully we got our fingers crossed. Blade Show's listening, and they're going to make some changes. And I think they did. I think there were functionally a bunch of things that changed this year. I'd like to think that they were generally in the right direction, but there's more tuning that needs to happen. I think would be a very safe thing to say, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
If it's not dynamic, it's dead, right? I mean, things have to change.
Yeah, and I think the catch-22 of changing it to try to make it better is changing it makes it different, and when it's different, sometimes it's hard to get everybody on the staff to tell the same version of the story to customers, right? So there's room for improvements there too on clarity for showgoers, right? And I think, hey, if Blade Show had more people there this year than last year, then maybe they shouldn't care that we know that there are a bunch of people that didn't come this year because of the experience last year, right?
Yeah.
But you can only burn that rope so long. So I think they have to be careful because we know for a fact there were a whole bunch of people that have come to Blade Show and a bunch of other big shows that just flat were not there this year. And that was part of this whole changing of the guard in the crowd that we saw.
It was interesting. Like you guys, and we talked about, depending on who you talked to, it was, some people said it was the greatest, craziest show ever. And some people said it just seemed very slow. And I think a lot of that depended on how old you are and how long you've been making. Because to me, it just seemed, it was busy, but at the same time, I was also just not seeing a ton of faces that I've seen for many, many years. And it struck me that, there's a lot of people that aren't here. And it wasn't that there wasn't a lot of people there.
Right.
There were just a lot of people that I didn't see that I used to seeing. So that part was strange to me. And I wonder if part of that was, because of past experience with last year and the weirdness, or just, people change and don't want to do shows. And there's a ton of other shows these days too.
We said this last year about numbers. I don't think Blade Show publicizes their door numbers, right? Like their attendance numbers. But it would be really interesting to know what the actual data was, 2 years ago, last year, and this year as far as headcount through the door. There was definitely a ton of brand new people that I'd never seen before. And in casual conversation, Sean and I talked to lots and lots of people when we were roaming around the floor, and it seemed really clear that there were a ton of brand new people there, right?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of people we didn't see that we normally would expect to see at a show, but there was a boatload of new people.
And not just that, it seemed like from when I was roaming around just a little bit more of, I guess more of a Forged in Fire crowd. Is that something that even makes sense?
It does.
A little more eclectic. I mean, shit. Knife shows they bring the eclectic groups all over all the time.
That's a fact.
But a little more, I don't know a damn polite way of saying this. Some people wearing leathers and stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
I saw more of that than I've ever seen before. And I have to attribute a little bit of that to more of a Forged in Fire Renaissance-y type of thing, I guess.
So are you saying I shouldn't have worn the leather, or I should have?
I
always wear the leather, dude.
Yes.
The tunic was fine. The chaps were a bit...
The chaps.
They didn't match,
Sorry.
Right.
But no, I just saw a little bit more of that kind of younger, dressed up a little bit more eclectic crowd as opposed to the usual older, tactical bag crowd. It's just different.
More diverse, more eclectic crowd for sure, right? Bo?
Yeah. And I'm not disparaging anyone that wants to, collect that kind of
we
stuff.
know exactly what you're saying.
God damn it. I'm just digging a hole here.
You can just call them cosplayers. It's cool.
That's what I was just going to say.
Damn it, Birch.
But just like we've seen in the industry with the kind of Forge and Fire, we're seeing a huge resurgence in the Forge stuff on Instagram. So I think we saw like a visual representation of the people at the show.
Yep.
That's what I should have said at the very beginning of this shit to not say what I did.
You should have reeled that in back at the start, buddy.
Like we cut, snip, and add that to the front, delete.
Too funny. So we talked a little bit about the quote new room, and we were careful to talk about the new room, meaning the other room. And we encouraged a bunch of people to get back there. There, like we talked earlier, there was definitely a ton more traffic back there. In a very different vibe, right? So we did get some clips. Sean and I wandered around with the microphone, especially on Saturdays when we did our recording, and talked to a bunch of people at the show. So we'll throw a little clip in here from Mr. Brian Efros, and he's got his typical Efros effervescence.
Mm-hmm.
So here's some words from Brian about how, because he was back in a big booth. There was sort of like a group of guys that were all in a big long booth, super booth. And Brian will tell us a little bit about what he thought about Blade Show this year and about being in the new room.
All right, we're talking to Brian Efros. And Brian, how's Blade Show been for you this year?
Blade Show's been great, man. I hold it. I'm allowed to touch it? I can touch it. I can touch it and pull it close to my mouth. Make love to the mic. No, Blade Show is great, man. It's the biggest knife party of the year. It's the best thing in the world to be here, surrounded by everybody. It's what we do, make knives for and shit like that. So.
And now, man, this is your second year in the second room. How do you feel about the secondary room compared to last year?
We had a great time in the secondary room last year, and actually, we're here again. We requested to be back. We brought a couple friends with us. This year is definitely more crowded in here. Attendance in this room is up. I think a lot of people just know there is a second room this year. And it's great. I'll be back here again next year. And second room is super booth, super fun party room.
All right, so Brian shared some words with us about what he thought about Blade Show. Always positive guy. Love Brian. He's always got
good.
He's got a killer vibe. Brian's a good dude.
Awesome knives too,
and he just keeps getting better.
Yeah, for sure, doing really nice work. So thanks for talking to us, Brian. And one of the cool things in the new room, there's a bunch of different things back there. Like right next to where those guys was like a guy selling lasers, right?
Yeah.
Like laser engraving, laser marking, laser etching stuff. There was a very diverse crowd. What's that?
It was Lit Laser. That was
Tom's working his discount code.
No, I bought a Tykma. I'm just saying that's who it was.
Shout out to my Tykma people.
Tom's a laser expert now. Ooh.
Yeah, right.
I'm not an expert. I just know the name of the companies.
So very diverse crowd of stuff in the new room too, though, right? I mean, there was Viking swords, and there was traditional knives, and there was modern stuff, and there was equipment. So the new room definitely had this eclectic, diverse smattering of things. One of the good parts for Brian was there with Ryan Schwartz. Right? Who else was in there with him? The Craft Brew Junkie guys were in there.
Nick Swan.
Rick Barrett.
Yeah, he was in there.
Rick Barrett, Nick Swan.
Yep, Rick Barrett, Nick Swan. But all those guys were kind of in that booth together. Yeah. The good part for them was it was right at the entrance, right? Like you come through the door and you walk right by where they're standing. So really, really good spot for them. Mm-hmm. But one of the cool things was that right across from where they were, right at the entrance to the new room on the left-hand side, was a guy that we've talked about on the show, David Boy.
Yep.
And Tom, you want to remind people about David Boy and why we were super excited to talk to him?
I mean, he basically wrote the book. I mean, back before the internet and all that, if you wanted to make knives, you bought the David Boy book. And it was awesome. I actually got to meet him this time, and really awesome guy. Bought me a signed book by him. And it was awesome. He's a living legend.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Boy Dendritic Cobalt.
And man, a super nice guy.
Yeah.
I mean, ain't it nice when you're looking forward to meeting somebody and they are actually a fucking cool human being?
Dude, I about teared up, and I think he about teared up, and it was like we were all rubbing our eyes a little bit almost, you know.
Bunch of
No,
fanboys.
I wasn't, but that.
I mean, I'm not a baby, but you know, if you want to tear up, that's fine, Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why
I get allergies in Atlanta.
yeah.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was cool because Sean and I had stopped by earlier to talk with him, and then we all went back there together, the four of us, and he was very cool with Sean and I. But then once the four of us all came and we're talking to him about how important the book was, now about how we talked about it on the show and how all you guys were using it very early on and influential in your careers. Like you said, Tom, he definitely seemed very appreciative of those words, and it was an honor to talk to him, and he gave that back to us as well. So that was very cool.
It was
Oh,
very
yeah.
cool. We all got folders.
Right.
Yeah, bud.
Yeah.
Got mine in my pocket right now.
I do too.
Me too. I've been carrying it ever since.
Hell of a deal.
Dude, it carries nice. That ain't no shit.
No,
Yeah, it actually
does.
works. Sharpens up easy, holds an edge.
That's
Dude, and the Marlin spike is handy as a pocket on a shirt.
Yep.
Seriously, did not think I was like, oh, that's cool, but I'm like, damn, I'm using this for all kinds of stuff that I would normally bitch a blade up with.
Right.
I think there's quite a few makers that went and bought his folders. And if you're
I
a
saw
customer,
a ton of them.
if you see a bunch of makers buying from somebody, there's probably a reason for it.
Yeah.
And they're just they're historic. I mean, his stuff's historic. I mean, if you ever heard of the boy or the B DC steel, whatever, I guess not really whatever, but
Cobalt alloy.
yeah, I
He
hate,
told me
hate
it's
saying
not steel.
it's not a steel. Yeah, it's hard not to say it, but that all came from him. And he used to do he still had the hemp rope where he's cutting it up in pieces and showing how long it'll hold the edge. It's kind of that cool. He's been doing that for years. It's just really cool that we got to have a little moment.
It was real cool. And I think, like you said, when we were there, Sean and I were there earlier, and then we went back and talked to him, the four of us, and then we ended up, what else did we do? We were doing something else in that same area. And like you said, while we were standing there, no longer talking with David,
Other people, yeah.
other people were coming up, and every one of them was a maker or somebody that was there selling stuff or somebody who was a writer for a magazine or, I mean, it was like a parade of people to come by and see David Boy. And that was very, very cool to see.
Paying honor to him.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought that was awesome.
Well, I bought some of the dendritic cobalt to play with too. Just, I bought one of each of the cast blades and one of the blanks. So I'm going to make a couple for myself.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got a bar of it off Salmonaro probably about a year ago. And now that's got me really chomping at the bit to try it since I've been using this piece.
Oh, I bet.
Use carbide.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy.
Oh, dude, I'm waiting for school to start back up. Well, I'll get something to where I can punch some of that shit out on the water jet.
Right.
Very good.
It actually doesn't. It doesn't work that bad. I've used it in the past. It's no more difficult than Stellite.
That's about what I figured. I mean, they're kind of similar.
Yeah. If you run carbide, no problem. It'll go right through it.
Man, did you guys catch about the texture pattern on the handle of the knife? What it's all about?
No.
I did.
Yeah, if you look at your little instruction sheet you got with your knife, the texture pattern, well, it's the actual dendritic pattern of the cobalt under a microscope.
Oh,
Yeah, the dendritic pattern. When I looked at it, when you mentioned it, I was like, yeah, damn.
That's super.
That's really
I mean,
cool.
that's a cool little touch.
Mm-hmm.
And for you guys who don't know, what we're talking about with the dendritic cobalt blades, it's not a steel blade. It's never going to rust. It holds an edge forever. And what makes it special is the way this blade material is cast, you get this network of, well, for lack of a better term, dendrites running through it like plant roots. And it gives it a really good structure and makes for a really, really aggressive cutting edge.
Yeah, kind of like what we talked about with the D2. Those real kind of more of a grit. This is a
Chunky carbide.
Yeah, this is a real chunky version of it. So you got almost a micro serrated edge that will cut and cut and cut and cut.
Yeah, and cut aggressively.
Mm.
I mean, this little folder has a wicked aggressive edge on it.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I'm really enjoying mine.
yeah, and
I worked to the creek the other day and didn't worry about getting it wet or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those, it's an interesting little knife because I think a lot of people who don't understand what's going on or what it's about will look at it and kind of turn their nose up, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
'Cause
It would be easy to snob that piece.
Oh yeah, it looks like a slightly crappy FRN handled Spyderco, right? Is kind of the appearance at first. But the material is super, super cool. And it's got a lot of very interesting features. You know, it's definitely not super gee whiz machining special, you know, whatever. But it is a really incredibly useful and cool pocket knife.
And
it's a highly functional, well thought out pocket knife.
Under $200.
Very well thought out.
Under $200.
Yeah.
You know, and let's not forget that. And, you know, like if you ever look at some of the Spydercos on their lockback that has the cutout, you know, the little indentation, that's a Boy invention, the cutout part of that.
Yeah.
Right.
And man, I like the bail on it. If I haven't made a knife with a bail on it by this time next year, I'll be kind of surprised.
Yeah.
I really like that little feature. I think that's classy.
It is cool.
It just, to me, this knife was very interesting. It kind of shows what's attractive to a knife maker versus what's attractive to, you know, someone that collects our stuff or something like that. That we were very excited about this $200 folder or less, you know, that we got to buy. That we all kind of like, oh, it's so cool, we got to buy this. It's interesting the difference and what makes it exciting to us versus the people that collect our knives, I guess. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah,
it's a contrast.
This isn't going to go in a collection so much as in your pocket.
Yeah,
you know, and it's about memories and what it stands for and how you use it. I mean,
100%. And that's a ton of the stuff that's in my collection. It's just random stuff like that I'm like, that has a little piece of something right there that gets me.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say earlier was, I mean, don't forget there's a ton of those guys that still go to this show that are sitting behind tables, you know, and you've read about them in history, you know, or in your knife books, your old books. And there's still a lot of those guys still go to these shows and are sitting there and you can talk to them, talk their ears off about some badass old knives. The knives they're making nowadays.
One of the coolest things that happened to me at Blade Show was Saturday morning. You know, I don't set up. I'm walking around the show. I have to take a double take because sitting at a table is an older guy, just hanging out. And I look back and it's Ron Lake. People are walking past him. Nobody's saying boo to this guy. And I end up going back and kneeling down because he's sitting at the table and I'm kneeling in front of it. I talked to him for probably 30 or 40 minutes and Dietmar Kressler comes up. Nobody's talking to these guys. Two of the iconic knife making legends are sitting there and everybody's streaming past him like nobody's there. And I'm just like, what an opportunity.
Yeah.
And he's like telling me tips on if I decide to make a lockback, he's like, oh, this will save you here and you need to do this. And I was just like, wow. I mean, you can't make that up. It's like,
that's pretty awesome.
We've said it before. The memory in our industry is about 2 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And getting shorter every year.
Exact. Getting shorter fast.
He had one folder on the table and it was like $27,000. And it's like, everybody's just walking right past.
Right.
Yeah. Those guys are there, you know, talk to them, find them. I need to just start taking Saturday off and doing that.
I think it's a good idea, man.
I don't know. I gotta make that money, pay those bills.
Well,
make it Friday.
You can make that money on Friday.
Yeah,
it don't take that long to get rid of 5 pocket knives.
That's a good point.
I'm just telling you, man. It works really nice. I talked to several people like that, and I was just like, crazy the history that's there.
Well, I just walked past to go to the bathroom, and I walked past Bill Luckett's table, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Bill Luckett, banded your
right?
Yeah, I saw his
for a long time. Shook his hand. I was like, I gotta go, but damn it, you know, it's like,
you know, that'd be a really fun thing to do next year. Would be, well, maybe we'll have to figure out some kind of scavenger hunt. Mark of the Maker Blade Show scavenger hunt.
People to talk to.
Blade 2020. Yeah, like
history search.
Well, yeah, like. Here's a list of makers, right? Go to their table and take a picture with the maker or one of their knives. You know what I mean? Or something like that. We'll have to talk about that.
That might be annoying,
I think it'd be fun.
But yeah.
Yeah. Some of those old guys might be like, get the fuck away from me.
I'm going to kill somebody.
Maybe.
I don't know nothing about no goddamn cast pod.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying, like you said, there's some it gets back to the know your history thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and there are some iconic, legendary knife makers there that, because they don't make a flipper or you know what I mean?
They're not
They
on
don't use
Instagram or
Tomascus or right. They don't have a big Instagram following. People don't even know who they are. And it might be really cool to send people on a little adventure at Blade Show if they wanted to, right? I mean, it might be a cool thing. Maybe we'll have a prize or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. We'll attach a lottery to it or prize, and we'll force you guys to learn some damn history.
Whatever the prize is talking to these people. I mean,
Yeah, well, it's
You
Tom,
know
that's
what
the secret.
we mean. That's
I know.
don't give away the ending to this, podcast
Yeah, hello.
/ Lifetime movie thing we're trying to achieve here. This is a Hallmark moment.
Come on, Tom.
sorry.
Oh man, you lead a horse to water. You know what I'm saying?
Then when they entered the giveaway, it'd be like, you already won in life.
That's right.
Yep.
What's your prize? And then you can make the sparkly fingers knowledge. Yeah. And then you get punched in the face. I want my
Pretty much.
fucking prize.
Experience.
Where's my free shit?
Where's my
Exactly.
trinket?
No, we got good listeners. They're cool. They'll get it.
We do have good
So-
listeners.
Oh,
Yeah, man, they are cool.
Unless you're a
for
bad
sure.
listener, then don't listen if you're a bad listener.
We only have 5 or 6, Birch. So you just
That's
lost
true.
20% of our
Thanks, dude.
audience.
I didn't mean that.
I will
Mom.
say-
keep listening.
This is a great point to bring this up. So Sean and I wandered the show, and I still felt like I saw 10% of the show. Even though I was
Dude, it
wandering
was
around.
crazy.
But the one thing I have to say is thank you to all the folks that listened to the show that came up and found me and introduced themselves and talked to not just me, but all of us about, what you took away from the show or what your favorite episode was, or man, it'd be great if you guys did a show about X, Y, and Z or whatever. So thank you to listeners for coming to find us and talk to us and tell us about what you like about the show. And for a bunch of people, we got some very, very personal stories, right? About how it helped get them kind of reinvigorated about knives and look at stuff in a different way. And that was very rewarding. So thank you to everybody who did that.
Yeah, I had a lot of that at this show.
Yeah, thank you guys.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. We all had it, right? Tom, you had people come talk to you as well at the booth, right, Tom?
For sure. I had a guy that was lives in Bentonville, came by the booth at Blade, and he's like, "Yeah, I listened to you on the podcast. I didn't know you were in Gentry." So
Yeah.
pretty crazy. It was awesome.
Got a lot of feedback on the kind of mentally health one too. I meant to say thanks on the previous one about that.
Yeah.
A lot of people reached out and talked, and I greatly appreciate that.
One of the better conversations I had was with Jerry McGinnis's mom about that episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She really enjoyed that one, and we talked about it for probably a good 20, 30 minutes.
I like Kimberly. She's good people. The McGinnises
Yeah.
are good people.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's healthy to talk about that stuff because so often, there's a stigma against, it's mental health, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, depression's a real thing, but nobody talks about it or any of that stuff, And so I think huge props to you guys because I think awareness helps. So
Yeah. The more we know about it, the better it goes.
Oh, yeah.
So thanks everyone for reaching out on that.
For sure. Yeah. And I, like you said, Jerry's mom, Kimberly McGinnis, she's a fan of the show, regular listener, always have great conversations with her
Yeah.
about what we're doing. She really gets it. And we heard from so many people during the weekend who understand what we're trying to do, right? Sometimes, believe it or not, we kind of have a little bit of method to our madness with a bunch of the stuff that we're talking about and the way we order the episodes and how the structure of the episodes go. We really try with some of those things to try to get people to a place, right? And so for me, I thought it was super cool to have people come up and say, hey, I was listening to this episode and this happened and, here's what I took away from it. And it's like, yes, right? You got it, right? So success, right? It's proof to us that people are hearing what we're trying to say, but not just the words, right? What we're trying to do with the show. And that's awesome.
right.
Yeah. The Hallmark moment at the end, the secret gift at the end, what we're trying to give.
Well, man, it's nice to hear from the folks because this is a labor of love, and that really validates what we're doing.
Yeah, it's the same with the knife making sort of thing. We feed off you guys, and if we hear something positive back, it makes it, I don't know, justifies it, I guess, the time and effort and all that whatnot.
Right. So one of the things that we talked about in the etiquette episode was the whole idea of hanging out in the pit in the evening at the Waverly, and the pit was on fire this year, right?
It was packed.
Oh yeah,
Never seen that many people in the pit ever.
Yeah,
it was pretty intense.
Well, man, especially on the night when CBJ was doing their thing on the upper level.
Yeah.
The lower level was still every bit as bumping.
yeah,
Right,
it's,
right.
Crazy.
I was up on the CBJ thing and just looked down. I'm just like, oh my, because I'm not, before that started going on, I didn't get up there. I was just down in the pit, or you'd be going up, to your room to see it. It was just so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was packed. For people that haven't connected the dots, when we say CBJ, we're talking about this group of folks, a very large group of folks called Craft Brew Junkies, and they're beer enthusiast people. Scott Trees and some other guys kind of make that whole thing happen with that group, and a social thing where people exchange beer and hang out and talk. And it's just a very cool and fun group of people. So if you go to a show or an event and they're doing something in this Craft Brew Junkies group, go hang out, because they're super nice people. And they just like to drink beer and have good conversations. So it's fun.
Yeah, they drink good beer and they're, just nice, and they kind of integrate the EDC gear and the knife stuff with it, and just kind of fun. It's a fun integration. Who doesn't like beer?
Sean's like, ew, they're nice. I'm out.
Yeah. But I had, on the etiquette show, we talked about, don't go too heavy on Thursday night. I think the wife and I had a little too much on Thursday night.
Yeah.
It seemed like you had just enough to me.
Yeah.
It happens.
It does.
Did you guys notice last year, I think was the start of it, but the Waverly is like, man, they're like embracing the pit and monetizing it. They had Blade Show shirts this year, which was kind of crazy.
For all the staff.
I'm proud of them.
Well, no, they were for sale.
Nice.
Yeah, they were for sale. But my point was, when you walk in the door to go to check-in, everybody working at the counter has a Blade Show shirt on. That's awesome.
Yeah,
people working at Starbucks have Blade Show shirt. That's fantastic.
I enjoyed that. They started last year. They had Redemption. Is it Redemption Brewery?
Redemption or Reformation? One or two.
Reformation. That's it. They had set up to sell their beer. They had like
DJ.
Cornhole and some other games out there. It was just kind of like, why not? The pits, I mean, they've always sold beer there and stuff like that. So, why not bring in a brewery and do that sort of stuff? Made it even more festive, it seemed to me.
It was definitely going on. I mean, it was crazy.
I thought, in general, I mean, I wasn't downstairs super late most nights, but at least when I was in the pit, there seemed to be people on pretty good behavior, relatively speaking, compared to some other years.
It did seem a little less, plenty of drinking, it seemed like, but a little less of I'm going to stab you in the face accidentally crowd, which is always a bonus.
Right. There's usually at least a little bit of jackassery going on, and I didn't see a lot of that this year, so that was cool.
Yeah. Someone
crowd
starts
was pretty chill.
Yeah, it seems like every year someone leaks some blood on the floor in the pit, and I don't know if I saw that this year. Which is
I didn't.
I didn't either. That's good. Good for us, Knife community.
I didn't see any blood on the show floor either.
Pat yourselves on the back, guys. We did it this year.
There was some on the show floor, but not much.
Oh,
not like it has been in the past.
We didn't have any rascal tractor pulls with any tables. I didn't hear of any of that.
I didn't really hear any horror stories this time around.
We did it, guys. I think
we're growing up.
As a community, we are growing up.
Yeah.
All right, I'm out.
Boring.
Yeah, Sean wants no part of this anymore. Tom, did you have somebody bleeding at your table?
Not at my table, but I did see someone bleeding, but it wasn't all that bad. Just
good.
There was a little blood, but not at my table. Nobody bled on anything at my table, which was nice for a change.
Right.
Yeah, you didn't have to tell him to go fuck off and bleed somewhere else like you did the guy that bled at yours.
Yeah.
It was like, just go away and come back.
Bleed somewhere else.
Hold
That's
pressure.
funny. Right.
Yeah, the one person I did see get cut should have known better and held absolutely no pressure. They're just like, it's just running out of them. And I'm like, hold pressure. It stops bleeding.
I'm not a doctor, but there's only a limited amount of that blood in you, buddy. Let's hold it in.
Right.
You will stop bleeding one way or the other. At some point, you stop.
Eventually it happens.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Oh,
So,
man.
yeah, the pit overall was cool. Yeah, it was a good time, but it was definitely packed. And I didn't go outside in the evening at all, but
I didn't either.
usually there's a pretty monster crew outside as well.
I haven't really done that much in years either. The last one went out to go hang with Sean. But yeah, I used to do it back in the day, but I think the smoke was too much for me past few years.
It's pretty harsh out there.
Getting these girly lungs
For
or
me.
something.
Only steel and G10 go in my lungs.
Yeah.
Titanium dust.
Maybe a little titanium too.
Right.
Saving them.
So we've had some funny stories. Last year we had Billy talking about somebody running a mobility scooter into a table and making a ruckus. So we tracked down Billy Cho. He's always got good stories for us. So here's a funny story from Billy about his Uber driver and the crazy thing that happened. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. His Lyft driver and his interaction with this Lyft driver. Check it out.
All right, we've got Billy Cho here. Billy's always got a good story to tell. So, Billy, lay your best Blade Show story on us.
All right. So, my Lyft driver last night, lovely young lady, she was like, what are you in town for? And I was like, oh, well, there's a knife show. She's like, oh, and then her eyes just got really large. And she was like, and I thought she was going to be like, get out of my car. I don't like knives that are dangerous. But she's like, no, you don't understand. I love knives and swords. And I was just kind of blown away because, she, was dressed like a, older lady. And so so she goes on to tell these stories about how for her birthday, her kids buy her knives and swords and I was just blown away. And she's like, you don't understand. In my house, I have knives everywhere. Just in case I need to, get some action. I have a hidden knife in a shelf that, only I know where it's at, all over the house. And she's like, you know what? She's like, don't freak out. I was like, okay. And at this point, we're already at my hotel, and so she's like, don't freak out. And so she reaches over. And she pulls out what we discovered is called a ninja claw dagger set. If you guys Google it, it looks like a giant, like a U shape, like the
Riddick knife.
Yeah, like the Riddick knife. Yeah, like an upside down J with the handles on the curve of the J. And she pulls these out, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, let me take a picture of you holding these. So I'll post it on the Facebook. But that was just amazing. And she was a dual wield mode. Yes, she was like, this is for self-defense. I was like, what kind of Uber driver are you? Or Lyft driver, I'm sorry. But it was amazing.
Okay, so there's Billy's story about his Lyft driver and the crazy. What were those knives called? The ninja claw kind of knives. Absolutely insane. I'm not sure what I would have done with the lady pulling those out when I'm sitting in her rideshare car.
Leave?
Dude, you just say, fuck yeah, nice knives.
I'll see you later.
Right. No, I got a feeling Billy Cho wanted to get out of there. Did you guys hear any other funny stories about something that happened to the show or anything that you saw or anything that happened at your table?
Man, I really didn't. It seems like the show gets shorter and shorter every year.
Yeah, it goes by fast for sure.
Yeah.
Everything kind of ran smooth. Nobody did anything wild. No, none of the, usually hear someone say about how they entered the lottery, didn't know it, didn't, they had to pay for it. Didn't hear anything like that. Just kind of
thought
seemed
it was a free knife or whatever.
None of that.
I will admit I was very disappointed. Went to Fox Brothers and they were out of the beef short rib.
Oh,
That was not good.
yeah, that's no
It's your
good.
jam, ain't it?
Yeah, dude, it's amazing. And so I was like, well, can I get a chicken? Because I got these whole roasted chickens. They're like, we're out of chicken too. I was like, son of a gun.
How are you out of chicken?
Dude, I started crying. Well, not really, but I wanted to. Inside, I was crying.
So
Right.
your whole Blade experience, you just didn't get fed? I mean, the pots and pans guy didn't bring no damn food. Fox Brothers like piss off. You just nothing?
No,
Dude,
Tom provided for himself at least once that I know.
Oh,
of.
yeah.
Dude,
Talk about
tell
that.
me that
Tom.
He was the bearer of the Arby's. It was a golden moment.
tell me that wasn't fun.
That was fun.
Oh, dude, that was awesome.
What did you, I didn't even,
It's been a lifelong dream of mine.
We know. We talked about it. It was both fun and incredibly delicious, I have to say.
what'd you do there?
Now, I'm hungry now. We brought 75 Arby's roast beef and cheddar sandwiches, but not on the onion bun, on the sesame seed bun.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
And
Because that's the hookup.
It is.
yeah, the onion buns are gross.
Gross.
And
They're too much, man. They're too much.
yeah, I basically had a little lotto. You had to show up at a certain time, and if you said the key word or phrase, passed out a sandwich and a lotto ticket, and we lottoed off a knife. And then I had extra sandwiches. I walked around passing out sandwiches, which was pretty fun.
Was it Peter's D2? Is that the password?
No, it was. They had to say, "Where's the beef?"
Oh,
I know it's not Wendy's, but yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
Next year, have it be meat curtains.
Dude,
Oh.
no.
Well, I guess my mom's not a
But-
listener anymore.
Yeah.
Now we're down to 4.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I've been behind the table, and sometimes you just don't get to eat, and so I walked around, passed out some until they were gone because it was kind of crazy. I had a hard time giving some away. People were like, "I just ate" or whatever. I'm like, dude, it's a free Arby's sandwich.
The people that bring food to makers during a show are legit angels. Like Franny and
Agreed.
Caesar, they brought ribs. Is that what it was, Mark?
Oh, that was good. I had some of that. Billy Cho got some.
Oh,
Oh,
the Jamaican jerk
yeah, it was jerked ribs and chicken over rice.
chicken. Yeah.
Oh, it was delicious.
That was off the charts.
Kate,
That was-
Katie Pritchard also
Yes.
brings some
Yeah.
amazing stuff.
Always
Shout
just-
out to her. Man, that
Yes.
stuff is amazing. And
The snacks
Oh.
that they're so good.
I don't usually get that much because my kids literally wipe it out. I went back to the room. I'm like, where the heck's all the, whatever. I think it was like the Rice Krispie bars. I was like, where'd they go? A little later, I see Ben opening up the safe. He changed the combo and he had all the stuff in there and he was wiping it out. I was like, what?
That's
the-
funny.
The chocolate chip cookie bars, those were the
Oh, those are
business.
so good.
Yeah, that will,
Marshmallows. I didn't even know homemade marshmallows were a thing.
that will make makes your days. And what
Oh, yeah.
was it? The Millers is one of the, I think it was the Gathering show. They came around with pizza or something. It was just like,
Oh, yeah. That hit
Woo.
the spot last year.
oh man, I turned into just like a street urchin kid. I just like crouched down and just like, rah, 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 get my food. It's usually like 3:00 or something weird by the time you do end up eating lunch, and you kind of forget about it, but you need it.
Well, those Spam wasabis that Chappie brings around are pretty awesome at the Gathering too. If you had those,
Oh yeah, those were good.
oh, those are good.
Well, now I'm
And
hungry, guys.
Spam freaks me out.
It's like 9:30 at night. I'm going to go in and just start raiding my fridge.
Oh, I know.
And before we change topic, man, if you like the homemade marshmallows, Alton Brown has a video on YouTube that will walk you through making them, and it's simple and they are awesome.
Really?
Very cool.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
be checking that out.
It would pay to if you like marshmallows.
Oh,
Very nice.
I don't necessarily like marshmallows, but I don't consider what Katie brings around the same as marshmallows. 'Cause that stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
It's
Anyways.
excellent. I got left out in the cold at the snacks at Birch Table this year.
We hit that away real fast.
I know. It's terrible.
Dang.
Out in the cold. But I was not left out in the cold on the beef and cheddar action. That was victorious, Tom. It was very, very cool.
Thanks, man. That was fun.
Yeah. In the blade etiquette or show etiquette episode, I hesitate to call it the blade etiquette episode. We put it around Blade time because tons of people go to Blade, but all of those things are applicable to any show that you go to. And one of the things that we talked about in there was not only for collectors that come to the show, but for makers on why it's important to do shows and kind of what kinds of things they should do, right? As far as paying attention to customers or a little bit of how to act with people and other things. Just some reminders for the maker side of things. So there's a couple cool things that kind of happened this year around Blade Show and why it's important. And what I thought were a couple nice reminders about why Blade Show matters. And you guys have any thoughts about that, Tom or Michael or Sean, about why, what's a big deal with Blade Show? I mean, we have lots of makers that exist only in social media today. They don't do shows. And I think even people that have massive Instagram followings and other things, personally, I think they would benefit from showing up to one of these things and making their face visible in front of real buyers.
It's always important to, interact with your customers. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what Blade Show is about. It's about interacting with your customers and networking with your peers. Those two things right there. And
in person,
whether you make money or not, and for me, sitting down to a meal is really good. There's a couple friends that I don't see, but maybe once or twice a year. And when I get to share a meal with them, it's just special.
For sure.
Yeah, it's that breaking bread with, friends and family. They've become, very close over the years. But to me, it's like, if you're not watching today's market, it's definitely gone down in the past few years. We're kind of seeing a slowed down vastly after it got, pumped up so much with the tail end of the tactical market getting hit with the Instagram and the social media boom. We're seeing the kind of the backside of that at this point, which is perfectly normal, but at the same time, if you're only doing online sales or you're only doing it and you've never actually become a face to somebody, it's going to be real easy for your secondary or those knives to not get sold like they used to. And I hate to say it, but there's been many a maker who's thought that they were going to have customers forever or that they were infallible in any market. It's just not true.
Relationships.
This market is changing so fast. And if you think that just being on social media and, putting stuff out there and not going and doing it is enough, I'm going to say it's not. You've got to go meet these customers. They want to see you, and it's a great time too. You get to go have food and talk to and see and do. And, and there's a lot of these micro productions popping up, stuff like that. This is a time to go meet with them, talk with them, which, I need to take my own advice on that. I don't ever be doing that, but this is the time to be doing that,
Well, for customers, I think, and it's important because you get a handle. I mean, you can put a picture of a knife up and it looks pretty damn good, but when you get it in your hand, you're like, oh, this doesn't work or this works, or you know what I mean? It's like, it's important to actually hold knives and handle stuff. And that's how you find new makers, and just wandering around the show is fun. I mean, it's like you get a,
yeah, I was right.
It's an experience.
I was checking out the Swarovski, the Kaz knives, and right next to him was a guy that, learned from him and I'd never heard of. No one was like, holy shit, these are damn cool. It's just stuff like that you'll find and meet, and it's necessary. I think if you want to stay relevant in this market or any type of, knife making endeavor, you really have to kind of at least make an effort to go to some of these.
Right. I know you guys have too, but I've certainly had the experience where I walked up to a table at a show, whether it's a Blade Show or, one of the regional shows or even the small stuff. And okay, these knives look pretty nice, right? Or these knives look okay or whatever. And then you actually pick one up and, suddenly the light bulb goes on, like, whoa, okay, this guy knows how to shape a handle on a fixed blade, or wow, this knife has really good ergos, or, you know what I mean? When you start to look close, hey, the details on this folder, they're really, really clean, right? This guy gets it. And And yeah, you can see things in pictures on Instagram and Facebook and whatever, but it's very different to actually hold the piece in your hand.
And there's also a lot of good photos of shitty knives and shitty photos of good knives. So
Yeah. Goes both ways.
yeah, there is
For
no
sure.
comparison to just holding your hand and feeling it.
Yep.
As a maker, I think it's important to go and not just for customers, not just for networking, but for especially if you use natural materials. This is probably the best place to hand select natural materials, see what's new in the industry, talk to steel companies, talk to heat treat companies, talk to, people doing coatings and stuff. And I think that's a very important reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's Sean and I talked to some folks on Saturday about exactly this question about Blade Show and how it's going, but about why Blade Show matters or why it's important or why it's the place to be. So we're going to hear from Chris Taylor. We're going to get a couple words from Jeremy Marsh and from traditional maker Luke Swenson, and kind of get their 2 cents on, why Blade Show is important and why they were there.
Excellent.
Okay, so we're in the new room, I'm using air quotes, new room, the separate extra room at Blade Show, and we're here with former Mark of the Maker guest Chris Taylor. So Chris, this is your first Blade Show, and just tell us a little bit about what it's been like.
So yeah, this is my first time doing Blade Show, and they put me in the new room, and I was a little, hesitant to see how the show was going to go because I had heard last year that it was, a little bit dead. People didn't know about the new room. Well, it's the exact opposite of that. It's been really, really busy. The sales are great, and I mean, it's been really good. Everybody I've talked to has really enjoyed the new room. The atmosphere, the feel of the show over here is different. So it's been great.
Okay, so Blade Show is a different thing, right? It's this big, massive thing. There's zillions of people, 1,000 tables or whatever. Maybe tell us what you think about the whole experience as it compares to some of the small show stuff that you've done in the past.
So the biggest thing that I've noticed with Blade Show is just the amount of people. And it's almost overwhelming compared to some of the smaller shows because it's just new faces and it's a constant. I mean, there's no downtime. I mean, I've just stood here and talked knives and shook hands and met so many people. It's crazy, really. So for my first experience at Blade Show, it's been great. But I mean, compared to the smaller shows, I mean, it's got a different feel, but it's good. They're both good, but it's been awesome.
All right, we're here with Jeremy Marsh at the Blade Show. Jeremy, how's Blade Show been for you?
Not bad. I think it was a little slower this year than normal. I think the crowds were there, but there's a different vibe going on, I think. And it was still a good show. Got to see everybody that we come here to see, and I think that's more of a thing for us these days, to come down and see all our friends and hang out and have a good time. So all in all, it's been a good show.
Now, man, one thing we talk about is how important Blade Show is to makers. Can you expand on why it's such an important show for makers?
Well, it's the biggest knife show in the world, and whether you're production, custom, semi-custom, if you want to do business in the knife industry, this is where a lot of people get their start. Blade Show, if you want to have your stuff seen, this is where you start, and this is where I started. And what I'm seeing is you start here and you continue it, and I've been every year I see you guys here, so it's just one of those things that you put on your calendar every year, and first weekend in June you're at Blade Show in Atlanta.
It's like a given.
Yep.
Okay, so we're here at Blade Show 2019 with traditional knife maker Luke Swenson, and we're talking about just Blade Show in general. So it's been kind of a different year this year, right? It has a little bit different feel to it. So Luke, why don't you tell people about why Blade Show is cool? Why would they want to come, or why do you think makers should come to Blade Show?
Hey Mark, hey Sean, it's good to see you guys finally put a face with the famous Sean Kendrick and my good friend Mark Steiner. Hey, Blade Show is the biggest deal in the knife world, and this year is so different. This place has been packed since the doors open, and it's close to 3 o'clock now, I think, and it is ridiculous. And if you have anything to do with knives, you ever wanted anything to do with knives, you have to come to the Blade Show to see it. There's so many good makers, The good thing about coming to Blade Show, at least for the slip joints, I've had guys come to my table and ask about a certain pattern, and I don't have one, but my buddy has one on his table, so I send them over there, and they buy a knife from them. They do the same thing. All the makers over here at least, and I'm pretty sure that it's like this everywhere. In the whole show, most of the guys I know would do the same thing. So, if you're a maker, you want to get your name out there, you want people to see you, you have to come to Blade Show. You have to come here. Plus, you can buy all your materials and all your supplies and whatever you need. So, but yeah, it's been great.
So the like you said, different show this year. There's not much left on the table. There's one very fancy engraved mammoth liner lock on the table. So it's been a good show for you so far.
It's been fantastic. I showed up. I had 12 knives, and that one on the table just sold via the internet. So yeah, I'm all done with them now. It's time to go take a little break, and you know how I do that.
Yeah, for sure. What have you had a chance to get around the show at all to see anything that's going on or look at any other stuff yet?
Every time I come here, I am so inspired by what all these guys are doing. There's so many new makers pushing the envelope, so many new guys that are doing such good work. It really, really builds a fire in us guys that kind of been at it a while. We better get after it or we're going to get behind, But yeah, I mean, the South African guys, the Brazilian guys, the Australian makers, all these guys are, it's great to see them starting to come into their own and starting to develop a presence here. But yeah, it's been great so far. This is a great place.
All right, so thank you to Chris and Jeremy and Luke for talking with us about Blade Show and why it matters, and some very good points brought up in there about, like Tom mentioned right before we went to the clips, stuff about finding materials and other things, but not just that. So Michael, just right across the aisle from where you were, there was something cool there that you were checking out. Talk to us about that.
Paragon's was putting out their sand pots now. That's something that's been in the talks for a few years now, because if you do any heat treat and whatever, you probably heard of salt pots, which are fantastic for doing your mark quenching and whatnot. You get two sets of salt pots. L6 was an amazing steel. Howard Clark did that too. You can do it immediately, go from your high temp down to your straight into 600. And it is it's awesome. It can do amazing stuff because there's no air around it, stuff like that. The problem is the salt can be very dangerous for not only rusting stuff, but dribble a little sweat in there. You might have a little, molten salt explosion in your face. So they've been working with, fluidized sand or to have a little safer version of it. And I saw that they'd actually come out with a version of it there at Paragon. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Now, the price tag was very hefty. And I don't know how you'd get away with, you have to be pretty rich to get a set of two to do any sort of mark quenching or anything like that. But damn, it's cool to see.
So when you say hefty, what ballpark? Just curious.
I think it was $6,000 or something.
Hang on, let me
maybe 45, but it was enough that I was like, oh, kind of step back for a second.
Wow.
Yeah. But
seriously cool stuff though.
Oh yeah. Complete coverage. There's no oxidation because it's, it's amazing stuff.
No
it's
foil
just
wrappers.
No, nothing. I mean, you're talking complete even heat and quick. But once again, salt explosion.
Even heat. I thought it was Paragon.
I mean, even heat throughout the blade steel.
Right.
I know.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, you threw a fucking dad joke at me?
Yes.
Well, it was just Father's Day after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is my job on this podcast. You need to back off my shit.
Don't
Sorry,
get up on
man.
my
You
bullshit.
throw it across a plate like that, I'm swinging.
That's true. You are a dad.
So this is a quench process.
Okay, so usually you'd have a high temp and then a low temp salt bath. Your high temp would get up to your 1950 or whatever you'd want. So you'd have to have two pots if you want to do the mark quenching type stuff. So you'd basically, and that would give the bayonet structure in your like L6 and stuff that gave it the flexibility, the irons and all that fun stuff. But the idea was you'd go straight from your high temp straight to a low temp. So you're quenching it, but quenching at a high temp. And
but he's saying low temp, it's like 600 degrees or something.
Yeah, low temp.
Right.
A lower temperature salt bath. So,
but you could also heat treat regularly from this. You could go straight to a plate quench, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I
and
assume.
You just wouldn't have the oxidation.
Yeah, I assume so. Not really sure how that would work.
So if you only had one, you would set it to your heat treat temp. So instead of using an oven, you would use this salt bath at extremely high temperature.
Yeah, it would replace your sand bath or your salt pot or whatever would replace your
furnace.
But it's a very thorough heat, and it's a perfect heat. It's not like an atmospheric, where's it at? There's not going to be a hot spot. It's a fluid touching it,
Now, one other shout out to Paragon. I did see they've got some new furnaces. When I was there, it seems like they had probes in like the front, the back, and the middle.
Oh,
and so they were running different elements, so there was no temperature differential, and they were also heating up to like quenching temperature in like 15 minutes or some kind of craziness.
Now that's awesome.
So they're, I've not used one of their furnaces, but just based on what I was hearing at the show, they're not messing around anymore. So look, it seems like there's a couple reasons to give a hard look at them if you're looking for a new furnace.
I'm always looking at new furnaces.
I've got 2 right now, so I'm trying not to. I did look at these and I was like, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
They're going up to like 2,300, which I think mine now only go to 21 maybe. So there's some pretty cool stuff to look at as far as Paragon's new stuff. Some cool sizes and all that.
I've only ever had even heats.
Same.
But if Paragon wants to, treat Mark of the Maker with some special heat treat,
well, I'm just saying, Even Heat sponsors a couple of other knife making podcasts. I mean, I'd be down to be a Paragon sponsor. I'm just saying.
He's
just
fishing.
Kidding.
So yeah, lots of stuff, lots of reasons to come to a show from a maker perspective. Obviously, lots of reasons to come to a show from a collector perspective. And
all the grinders. There's so many more grinders than there ever has been ever now. And you have so many options now, which is would kind of suck, because back in our day, it was like, all right, I'm going to get that KMG when I get money. That's what you did.
Yeah.
Now there's a ton of choices. So it'd be a great time to check them all out, because they're all there. Or at least it seemed like they were.
There's a bunch. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things we normally talk about with shows is, and even in regular episodes, is hey, what did you see over the last couple of weeks that was just something cool? And so with shows, we like to talk about it in the context of the show. So something that you really liked, or something you saw, or a maker that you saw that you thought was doing cool stuff, or it even could be a piece of equipment or whatever. So Michael, you want to start and talk about something cool that you saw at Blade Show this year that got your attention or you thought was neat?
There's a few things. I got away first before the show opened, and I got to check out Grace's scissors, which I've seen them on Instagram, online.
Yeah.
Grace Horn.
Yeah. Legit Sheffield made, beautiful scissors. Unfortunately, I was too late to be able to pick any up. Same with the Kaz knives. I finally got to see those in person. Oh man, they're gorgeous. Works of art.
That one pair of scissors that Grace made was crazy off the charts.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I was looking at she had some Mokame handled ones. But interestingly enough, she said that next year she should be having some more made for men type of scissors. I just like the looks of them, which is trimming and stuff like that. Which would be, then I have legit reason to have them. I really didn't care. I was going to buy some anyway, but
Right.
But then I saw, I guess, hardcore grinder stuff. They're always kind of doing new stuff with the Moen stuff. They had like handles, like I use for when I grind. I just have like 2 pieces of G10 to squeeze, have something to hold on to when I'm doing folder blades, and they have some now. It's back with carbide. I guess if you want to grind up against it, which I've never been able to do that before. Grind your plunge up against a carbide piece.
Either.
But I like the handle looked comfy and didn't look very expensive, so might be something I'd check out after a while.
Cool.
What about you guys?
Yeah, I think I might pick one of those up also.
Yeah, it just looked handy.
Yeah, I didn't see them. I'll check them out.
We're not getting any younger.
I don't have anything right now. I don't even have the 2 pieces of G10.
Well, I did many years of just pinching the end of it by the pivot with my fingers as I grind, and that's not going to get any easier the older we get.
Nope.
So I think we mentioned Grace's stuff in the etiquette episode, but Michael's talking about this lady named Grace Horn out of the UK, and her Instagram is at Grace, GRACE _ Horn, HORNE _ designs. And she makes lots of different stuff actually, but the piece that we were really fascinated by is that she makes these really fantastic handmade scissors, and they are stunning and absolutely pieces of art, functional art, like the knives. So definitely worth checking out. Check out Grace's feed on Instagram. She's got some super cool stuff on there. Very interesting lady to talk to as well.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to find a way to get her on the show with us sometime, because I think her story would be fascinating to go through. But
she's a Renaissance woman. She makes her own, the boxes, the leather work, everything to go with the
display stuff. Yeah.
Amazing.
My son, Ben, I told him about him, and he's like, And I showed him a picture, and he's like, oh my goodness. So 18-year-old guy going to see scissors. I mean, it's like, that's how badass they are. I mean, seriously, it's crazy. Grace is hardcore.
She is amazing craftsmanship. Very, very cool design stuff. I mean, she makes sheaths for the scissors, and it's very cool. A very interesting thing. Like I said, she makes other stuff too, like corsets and all kinds of other things, but just an interesting person to talk to and some very beautiful work. So definitely check her out. What about you, Tom? Did you see anything cool at that, or talk to anyone cool or whatever at the show? Something you want to recognize?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much cool going on. It's like, where do you draw the line, right? I talked about Ron Lake. Tony Bowes got put into the Knife Makers Hall of Fame, which is pretty awesome. Mel Pardue also. Walking around the show, I saw a couple of Rod Chappelle's knives that were freaking so cool. I got to handle those. And then when I went to the show this year, I was really wanting to check out Winkler's axes.
Yeah.
Definitely on my to get soon list. I've got a wedding I'm helping pay for this summer, so that kind of cut into those funds. But I also was looking at RMJ stuff, and I'd gone. I mean, I went with the desire to get either an axe or something, and I saw the Snuggle, and I came home with that. So I mean, who needs it? Nobody. Who wants it? Everybody.
Right.
I showed my kids that, and they're like, "Dad, that's what we got to get." So I got one. It's going on the wall right by the door in my office, so that's going to be pretty cool.
Nice. So you can bludgeon someone if they come through the door that it doesn't need to
just
be
in case. I mean, you never know.
So Tom and I did this mini-sode about axes and hatchets and stuff, and we talked about the Snuggles Warhammer in that conversation when we were talking about RMJ, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what Tom scored at the show. So if you've never seen one of those, look up RMJ's Instagram feed or Facebook, and there's this Snuggles. There's a Warhammer, and its name is Snuggles, and it's got a cute teddy bear face on the side, and
I think it's actually designed for breaching and stuff, but I mean, it's a legit Warhammer. I mean, or meat tenderizer or whatever. It's cool. I handled it, and I was like, this is going home.
Yeah, it's super, super badass.
While we're talking about RMJ, man, did they buy out American Tomahawk Company?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah, they did, man. That's the big thing at Blade. They're coming back. So they bought all the rights and everything. So
Yeah, well, I saw one of the Vietnam Hawks.
Yeah, they're bringing
and it was
back.
a vast improvement over the original.
Yeah, they're really, really good.
I mean, it would actually cut something well.
Yeah. They don't mess around when it comes to making hardcore using tools. And, they bought the dies, and talking to Ryan, that was an adventure because I guess the actual heads were being forged here in Arkansas somewhere, and they had to get a court order to go because the place had shut down. And anyways, it was kind of crazy story about how they went to get the dies. And after all that work, they couldn't use them. So they ended up making new dies. But they're coming back hardcore. And it's, if anybody can do it and do it right, it's RMJ. So I'm excited to see what they're doing.
So these are more traditional Hawk kind of stuff. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, it's the Vietnam Hawk. So that's the main thing. So this was a for real thing, and they were used in combat quite a bit, I think, in Vietnam. And they went out of business, 10 years ago? I don't know. It's been a while.
Okay.
But yeah, they bought all that and are bringing it back hardcore. And they're a cool Hawk.
Yeah.
Very nice. What about you, Sean? Did you see anything super cool that got your attention or that you want to talk about?
Well, man, one dude whose work I wanted to see was Jonas Iglesias. So I went to his table very first thing when I got in. I got to see everything he had on his table, and man, really impressed with his work. I had a nice conversation with him, and I recommend other folks check out his work. It's just really nice, very carryable, really well thought out. When he does fancy, he does it right. It's not over the top ostentatious, just, we'll throw all these materials together and hey, look, that's a fancy knife. No, there's actual thought to it. There's thought to his designs. So I really enjoyed seeing his work.
Nice thin edges too. I've only seen a couple of his blades, but man, nice thin edge.
They look really clean.
And I just like the way he's doing the thing. Yeah. Everything's carryable. Everything's thin. He tries to minimize weight. There's not a lot of wasted shit on his knives. I dig it.
Yeah.
Very nice. And for people trying to find that stuff on Instagrams, it's JI Knives, all one word, right?
Yeah.
So I had two cool things at Blade Show. One, Sal Monero was there and he brought a delivery for me. So it was this little folder. I think I talked about it in the Blade Show remixed etiquette episode, but I mentioned this Monero GMC folder, and it looks like a slip joint. It looks like a traditional knife at first glance. It's about the size of a slip joint or lockback traditional knife, but it's actually a bolster lock on a real nice detent with a nail nick opener. This one's bronze tie on both ends with Westinghouse and a hand rub blade, killer hand rub. And so Sal delivered this to me at the show, and I have to say that might be the coolest knife I've bought in a long, long time.
It was a cool piece.
Yeah.
And Sal is such a good guy. I mean, really.
I got to talk to him for like 40 minutes uninterrupted on Saturday, and it was probably maybe one of the best parts of the show for me.
Oh, yeah.
Just getting to talk with him for a bit about knife making.
Yeah, it had been a while since I saw Sal. I mean, he and I had communicated through Instagram a bunch, and we talked on the phone and stuff, but hadn't seen him in person in a long time. So it was very, very cool to have him with us at the show and have some time to chat. For me, the added bonus that he brought a knife for me. So that was super, super cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was thrilled to get that. There's pictures of it on my Instagram. Everything about it's good. You know what I mean? It's a nail nick, but there's enough meat there that you can open it one-handed. It's glass smooth like everything of Sal's. The hand rub is super crispy. It's just beautiful, beautiful little knife. So high five, Sal, and it was great to see you. Glad you could hang out with us a little bit and chat. And Sal's a big fan of the show, a listener, and we should try to have him on at some point and join us for a conversation because I think his knife making story is an interesting one for sure. So,
oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one cool thing I saw. The other one was more of a thing that I saw than a knife or whatever. And at Blade Show every year, they give out these awards. And Tom mentioned, about the Hall of Fame and some other stuff. There's a bunch of other awards that talk about, best production knife, whatever, most innovative design, those kinds of things. But in the list of Knife Show awards, there's Best Collab, Best Fighter, Best of the Rest. And one of the awards that's in there is something called the Etta and Aldo Lorenzi Award. And these are folks that have a retail knife store over in Italy, and they make basically a donation of some prize money, $1,000, that goes to somebody that's influenced the industry or has helped guide the industry. And that award this year went to a traditional maker, a very well-known one named Bill Ruppel. And Bill's out of Texas. I think most of our listeners will recognize Bill's name. If you've been around this stuff at all, you've heard about Bill Ruppel, great maker, very cool guy. And so Bill won this award from Blade Show. But there was kind of a separate parallel thing that happened where, the reason Bill won this award, a big piece of it was he's been very giving and forthcoming with knowledge and information about making knives and teaching other people how to make knives and how to make great knives. And so a bunch of Bill's proteges got together. Luke Swenson, that you've heard some words from here on the show, but Luke Swenson is one of his proteges, another traditional maker out of Texas. And Luke can talk to us a little bit here about what that was all about, what they did for Bill Ruppel. There was a very cool thing. So we'll play a clip from Luke.
So you guys, one of your mentors is Bill Ruppel. He's kind of like your sensei, right? And so you had showed me a picture of a thing that you guys put together to honor Bill. You want to talk a little bit about what that was and why you guys did it?
Basically, the South Texas Slip Joint Cartel got together and we decided to honor Bill because of how selfless and generous he's been with his knowledge. And, Bill Ruppel changed my life. The knives that we made aren't good enough for him. They aren't good enough, but at least when he looks at them, he'll see that what he's given us is appreciated. And I don't know of anybody, they may be out there, but I don't know of anybody who's taught more guys to make knives than Bill has, and won't accept a dime in return. Now, Bud Light, that's different.
Every man's got a price, you know what I'm saying? So we've talked about that a little bit on the show, how the traditional knife side of things, on the other part of the room versus, the tactical stuff versus traditional knives, slip joint knives, they're a little different from that perspective where, Sean and Michael and Tom have worked with people and helped teach people how to get started, but there's maybe a little bit less willingness to share detailed design stuff like a special feature or some kind of special shape or whatever. People get a little more protective of it. But on the traditional knife side, the slip joint side of things, there's this very open, open sharing of patterns and other stuff, and it sounds like knowledge as well. And that seems like a really positive thing. It can only make the slip joint world better.
Yeah, I think that the reason for that is because when you talk about traditional slip joints, the patterns are all established. These guys are real knife guys dreaming up these patterns and stuff in their heads and slaving over them over their machines and throwing away parts and cussing and we're doing that too. But the patterns are established, and a collector will buy a double blade trapper from 10 different makers. You're not going to get there's not going to be a ruiner from another maker. There's so I think that has a lot to do with it. That's the name traditional because there are countless patterns and they've all really been done before. Guys are coming up with some really cool new stuff too. They're taking and changing blade shapes. Chris Taylor changes blade shapes in every knife, and they all look cool and make me jealous. But don't tell him he's not going to hear this, is he?
Nobody listens to the show.
All right, so Luke was kind enough to share this story with us about this thing they did. Well, I think we'll try to find a video of this whole honor thing that they did for Bill, and we'll put it in the Mark of the Maker group. There's a cool video of this all actually happening, and the way this went down was, Bubba Crouch gave Bill a knife, and then 12 more makers, one at a time, each walked up and handed him a knife, and he unwrapped it and checked out the knives, and it became a pretty emotional thing. And I thought that was an incredibly cool tip of the hat to their mentor. And like I said, it got a little bit emotional. I think, how could it not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
Yeah,
That's a
wow.
pretty awesome way to honor someone.
Exactly. I don't know. It was a very nice, it was a nice gesture, but I know a very heartfelt one from talking to Luke about it. That was a big deal to them to do that for him, and a great honor, right? I'm sure Bill felt as honored, maybe more so by that even than the award he got from Blade Show directly. So very, very cool experience and a neat thing for Bill, and a great way to recognize what he's done for so many other makers. So kind of overall takeaway, I think everybody had a good show, right? I mean, we had some concerns about stuff, but in general, I think everybody felt pretty good about Blade Show.
Yeah, I mean, then
For sure.
came home with no knives except for the one I bought, and that's really more all you can ask for.
Yeah. Definitely going next year.
Right.
Oh yeah, wouldn't miss it.
Sean, you guys had a good time. You had the family with you walking around and looking at stuff, and I sure enjoyed talking to Shade. That was fun. And
Man, he's a good kid.
He is a good kid.
Thank you. Man, he's a card, and he loves you guys. He thinks the world of y'all.
Well, I am honored.
Yeah.
that feeling's mutual. He's a good dude. We had a good time.
Pretty funny too. Good sense of humor. I mean, just sharp.
Oh man, he's sharp,
dude,
and he's quick.
Yeah. Like I got to catch up most of the time. Yeah.
Shade's over there leaving Tom in the dust.
He does it to me too, man.
Right. So, we talked a little bit earlier about maybe trying to do something different next year. And I don't know that any of the details of this have been worked out, but Michael, you mentioned something about maybe doing something in a different part of the room. I'm going to play a little audio clip from Jeremy Marsh where he talks about kind of this idea that you guys were kicking around, like maybe you try to get some people together and sort of centralize a little bit. So let's listen to this clip from Jeremy.
So, man, we understand you have some tentative plans for next year, possibly. Could you let us in on that a little bit?
Yeah, Birch and I were sitting up last night at the CBJ meeting and just shooting the shit, and we talked about maybe trying to get a booth system set up, kind of like how Nichols and Feltholter, Steve Kelly have a big square where there's 10 of them in a booth. It's a big square, 10 booths where they're all in one area. And Birch mentioned maybe getting 10 or a dozen of us makers together in one square booth like that, where we're all together and all setting up together and making it easier for the buyers, because we all kind of make the same type of stuff, you included, and maybe seeing if we can set something up in the new room and making something like that work.
Dig the idea, man. I think that's a good one.
I think it'd be fun.
Absolutely.
And even if it's maybe not from a monetary standpoint, but just because right now we're kind of spread out, and if we want to talk to each other, we got to wander around the room. If we're all together, we could hang out. It'd just be more of a fun experience.
Well, it would certainly keep us at our tables more often.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So, Jeremy, one of the things that people in the new room said to us was they were actually impressed with the traffic. Like Brian is back there and some other people, that they were surprised. They thought, wow, traffic is great this year, whereas we're hearing from you that maybe it's not so good. You think, I know you moved from where you were, right? You previously were part of a bigger booth. You guys split off, you and Jim, and are in a little bit different place. Do you think it has to do with that, or maybe just differences in the show this year? Any thoughts?
Well, I think we moved. We swapped booths with Feltholter, and they put us. Our heading was Marsh Burke, and people were having a hard time finding us. They remembered us being in the original booth with Nichols, and I had several people come up and say we didn't know you were here. So I think that's part of the programming issues, a programming issue that was with Blade Show, but we did see less traffic. So I think and the guys who are in the new room, I heard, were having good luck with traffic there, and when we went in there, it was busy. So I think it was just a mishap on the programming part of it.
Well, and like you said, maybe this concept that you and Michael talked about, if you can get, a bunch of makers that are of similar style, right, or I don't know, I think of it as generation almost, right, as far as when you kind of came into this or kind of gained popularity. You guys all were around the same kind of time frame. If you can have you all in a very similar space, also, like you said, the camaraderie piece of it might even help drive traffic to a certain spot, right? It might even be better for Blade Show in general.
Yep, I think it would. And I've been saying for years, I come to Blade, one of my biggest reasons for coming to Blade Show is buying materials. And there are 3 or 4 Damascus guys that I like to buy steel from, but they're scattered all about the show. So I'm wandering around for, a couple hours buying steel from different guys when I think they could all be congregated in one aisle or one specific area to make my buying experience easier. And I think it would also work well for the makers.
Right. I know last year when they were funneling people in, at least one of the various entry tiers last year, they were kind of pushing people through the new room on their way to the big room, right? And part of that's to try to drive the exposure, but in the end, people have to go see what they want to see, and it's like you said, it's not good for your business if people have to go, follow some treasure map to be able to find you, right? And for them, it's not any good either, right? Because they might miss a maker that they really were interested in coming to see. So, we saw Blade Show make some changes this year with the entry system. I think it was still confusing because it was new for people. Maybe a little better than last year. I don't know. We'll have to talk to some other collectors that were at the door, but hopefully they'll listen to some of this kind of feedback as well and can find a little better way for you guys too.
Well, Blade's getting so big that it's starting to remind me of SHOT Show, to where you need to go into SHOT with a plan. You can't just go wander SHOT because it will overwhelm you. And Blade Show's getting to that point too, to where now you have 2 rooms, and if you don't have a piece of paper with the makers that you want to see on it, you're going to walk right by. You have to have that shit on your paper so you know what booth number to go to, or you're going to miss them. And it's getting to that point to where I think if we congregated together, not only will it be better for us, but it'll be better for the buyers that buy our type of wares.
So yeah, I think it'd be great if we all, a bunch of us makers that kind of grew up together in the knife world could be in one spot for customers. I think it'd be less hectic, less crazy, and like I said before, we'd get to see each other more. So,
right.
Yeah.
And if there's a need to try to drive traffic into a certain area, that's a pretty great way to do it.
Yeah. And I think it just, like we talked about energy before, trying to harness all that energy in one spot is going to be better than, dissipating over the whole place. Try to keep the excitement levels up. So, but speaking of that sort of stuff, how do you guys do like with the show hangover stuff? Because this one always gives me a pretty big one as far as just being drained. It was a rough show getting prepared for. We got the puppy and had some other stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it kind of came up real fast on me. Had a lot of late nights and stuff. Tom, how's your recovery been, and what do you do to kind of get the post-show blues away?
Man, this one, I'll be honest, it kind of kicked my ass. As far as, the show, it's like, you're running on gas, on fumes while you're there. And this year, I always want to have my stuff done way before. And I always try to build more than I can take, it seems like, or get done. And so, I burn the midnight oil many nights.
Oh, yeah.
And then driving, basically, I've about decided not to drive anymore. Of course, I probably will continue to drive.
Oh, you will.
But right now, I'm just like, oh.
I don't know how you do it.
When we took the booth down this time for the first time, so, had to set that up. And so, next year, I'm actually came back and made some notes at the end of this year. So hopefully next year will be a little better. And we're more prepared every year. It's just this year, it was a major butt kick.
Yeah.
What did I do to get back? I mean, literally, we went back to the shop. Like I got in at 6:30 and my wife and I were up here unloading the booth and the car at 7. So we were back in the shop that night. And, I'm a strange one. I've always joked I got to go back to work to recover from the weekend or from whatever. I mean, it's like, it's a safe, comfortable place for me. And I like to get back and work a little bit. And it allows me to think that, if I did get ahead a little bit at Blade, I don't get behind. So, Yeah, I got back in the shop, and Tuesday I was in working. I didn't push it quite so hard. Ben Orford was in the shop hanging out. We were helping him with a project he's working on. And it was fun. But I did get back in the shop, and last week I worked, but not quite as crazy as normal. This week I'm back after the weekend at home, got some sleep and all that, some good meals with the family. I'm back.
Yeah.
So
it seems like most times when there's another maker in the shop, that can be a rejuvenating thing, even between shows. So that seems like a pretty great way to come out of Blade Show is to have, and Ben's an awesome guy, right? So
he is a super good dude. He rode back with me. So it was just me and him for 12 hours in the car, which is kind of crazy because he's like, it only took me 8 hours to fly over here. I think if you drive for 12 hours in England, you like end up in Russia or something like that.
You're doing laps. That's like 25 laps England.
But it was fun. Having somebody else in the shop, like you said, it's it's not all about you, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
right.
So that was nice.
What about you, Michael? What's your recharge, get back in the game kind of deal?
Like I said, this was a rough one. I think by the time I felt like I was on my 5th wind or something during this show.
Yeah,
it was crazy. It was Blade doesn't usually do that to me. I'm usually pretty good for Blade. It's always stressful, but it's usually not like TKI or something like that. But like I said,
same.
But I don't know, something about this one, just kind of got real busy during the beginning, into the spring or whatever, going in the summer. But then our flight got canceled. We got a message like at 6 a.m. on Sunday, and of course we got to get back to the kids. We got her mom watching the kids and stuff, so we ended up renting a...
Oh, you drove?
Yeah, we rented a car with Steve Delac and Kylie from 50/50 Productions. They live there in Springfield too, and we just knocked it out in one day. It was
that's crazy.
It was
yeah.
Then I slept, I think, for a long time. I was just tired. I was out of it, absolutely out of it. For about 2 days, I was just kind of real, not doing much. I bet I didn't do much at all last week, really. Jacked around a lot, did the lawn mowing and all that crap. So
you look like you were trying to tackle a little post-show cleanup kind of stuff too.
Oh yeah, you always got to clean the shop. You always got to clean up around the house, play with the dogs and the kids, and did some bowling, hanging out with them, and just that kind of stuff. And then, as usual, I usually go into drawing and go in the drawing mode to kind of get back into the swing of stuff. Now I'm trying to tackle the V5s and kind of kicking my ass a little bit.
They look good. They look good.
The one I got a prototype done, but it's not quite there. So I spent the rest of the day staring at the computer. It gives me a little bit of a headache.
What about it don't you like?
It's not. I don't know how to explain it. It's not quite there. It's aesthetically got a little bit.
You'll get it.
Well, I know, but the prototype's got kind of a long bolster area that kind of, I don't know, aesthetically does not do it for me. And if it bothers me a little bit, I know good and well I'm not gonna be able to do it. So
you don't want to make something you hate.
I'm not going to make 200 pieces of something that has one part that bothers me, but it works fine. Right. I jacked around with the lock bar a little bit, kind of made it funky, but it made the detent real close to the blade. I like that feature, but other than that, I just got to do a little design work to it, a little tweaking.
I do like how slim it is. It's totally different from a lot of your stuff. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
it's the same but different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've been really going into more of a slim type of knife. I did so many wide knives for such a long time that I try to make them. Been working on slimmer and doing the internal stop pin thing. I haven't done one of those in a long time.
Yeah. Very cool.
I just posted a picture today or yesterday of a couple of slim dows, and that was one of the reasons I posted that picture was looking at that V5 Proto. It makes a slim dow look chunky.
Yeah.
Right.
For real.
That Proto is very slim.
Yeah, it is. It's but you kind of have to get away with the internal or the semi-internal type of stop pin to do that real thin. and not do the things that I hate, like exposed detuned and shit like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What about you, Sean? You, we were there kind of spectating, working on the show, doing recording stuff, just wandering, but I don't know. I definitely still get a little bit of post-show hangover, doing the whole out in the driveway kicking rocks. I miss my friends or whatever. Yeah. What about you coming back from the show? How do you kind of get back in the game?
Man, now you know how I am about yard work. I'll do a day of yard work, easy.
Yeah.
And that helps. And then if I picked up materials at the show, I'll start sorting them. If there's any that I can do a little bit of rough work on or pre-cutting so I can see, what they're looking like inside and how they work, I'll do that. That helps a lot. That really, keeps the fire smoldering that you picked up at the show, picking up materials and talking ideas. And,
oh, yeah.
Just slowly get back into the swing of things, not try to force anything.
Right.
Do you just lay your material out like kind of on your table and just kind of look at it and be like, yeah, new material?
For hours on end, yes.
I don't know why.
Post pictures of it.
I will, and I'll just kind of look at it and be like, all right, I got some new material. And you kind of imagine what it's going to look like. I got a monster chunk of Damacore I was all excited about.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Like 2 inches wide.
It's kind of an interesting thing. I could see, and you guys can tell me if this is right or wrong, but like, okay, so, we joked before, only maybe slightly joking, before the show about how Sean wasn't displaying knives at the show, right? So he was like, you're right, I'm going to go to the show, but I'm not having to deal with show prep and all that kind of stuff. And I can see in that situation where you actually just went to a show and saw some stuff and maybe got some inspiration from seeing some cool shit going on and buying some materials, how much that might actually kind of rev you up coming back into it.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Versus, this kicked my ass and fuck that machine because I spent too many hours on it before the show, and you get like some kind of PTSD, show prep PTSD coming back into the game.
Yeah, I'm absolutely jealous a little bit of Sean just wandering around and getting to see a bunch of knives and being able to do that stuff. That's I have to do that, make myself do that one of these years because that looks so much fun and not having to worry about the show prep and stuff like that. And what sucks is like you buy a bunch of stuff to get ready for the show. You get back and you're like, all right, I'm ready to get back. And you're like, oh shit, I ran out of those belts because I had to buy them and used them. So you're buying a bunch of stuff again that you had just bought not long ago.
Right.
You kind of used them all up in one go.
Got to do it every year.
Yeah.
We should try at some point to go to a show where nobody on the show, nobody on the podcast actually works at the show. That would be pretty interesting.
Crazy.
Wouldn't it be fun?
Mm-mm. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Or even like Tom's deal, right? Maybe we go and Tom does this thing on Friday, but then Saturday the four of us go walking around. That'd be pretty fun.
I could do that. And
That'd make for a cool episode too. I think to talk about that whole experience would be neat.
And I told myself I was going to try to do more of that this year, and I maybe did a little bit more. Abby and I just kind of stepped away and tried to walk around more, but not as much as I like to have. Because then you feel bad because I'm away from my, someone might be wanting to talk to me or do whatever, but at the same time, I love knife shows too.
Well,
right.
And it would be fun too, because like I walk around on Saturday and I'm usually walking around with some friends, but you know what kind of geeks me out and catches my attention? Sometimes they get a little bored and wander off. So usually I end up by myself some of the time anyways. But, other makers would see the same, probably see the same stuff, find it interesting, like at the old knife, the people selling old knives or different materials, or like I saw somebody selling DLC coating, machines, stuff like that.
That's where I get stuck. If I see an old dealer with some cases, those are the cases I'm looking in, because that's going to have your old school
treasure.
Yeah, the old art knives, or you might find an old ass Randall in there. You don't know.
Yeah, marbles, any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Love it.
Yep. No, that's like when we would go to TKI and then go over to the gun show and wander around. Right, that was always fun. That
could be fun.
Yeah, I loved the Antique Arms and the Beinfeld show that used to be there, and now, there's another show there. But man, that I love looking at all those old knives in there. There's some true treasures in there.
Yep.
Another cool place that could be fun for us if we went to the New York show and then went to what museum is it that has the armory?
The Met.
The Met. Yeah, that.
Man, the Met Arms and Armor Department. I follow them on IG, and I would love to go there.
It'll blow your mind. I every time I go there, I'm just like, wow, love that place,
dude. That's a Mark of the Maker field trip.
Yeah, I actually thought about going to New York this year since I'm not doing the gathering this year.
I'm down. Let's go a couple days early and go.
Well, I mean, I don't know about a couple
with our
days
Patreon money.
Yeah,
with our Patreon money.
Right.
I was about to say, where's this extra time and money coming from, buddy?
Yeah. Well, we'll set a play date.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about this Patreon while we're at it then.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's a good way to wrap up this whole thing. So we mentioned in the beginning, we've been talking about a little bit, this whole idea of setting up a Patreon for folks that want to help support the show. We joke all the time about, if so-and-so wants to sponsor us and whatever, but honestly, we've actually had some very nice and very generous people offer to sponsor the show, not really even asking for ads, but we just we're trying to avoid the idea of reading an ad in the middle of the show or whatever. So we've been kind of resistant to that. So this thing's been an out-of-pocket thing so far, and it probably needs to do something different. So anyway, a couple of people have recommended to us this idea of setting up a Patreon, which is a voluntary thing where if you like the show, you can donate money to the show. You can send us some money. So it's set up to be like a monthly contribution thing. And there's different.
Super easy.
Yeah, easy to use. It's very common in the podcast world for these Patreon things to support podcasts. And so there are these different tiers or levels in the Patreon where at different tiers, different things can happen. So we've been kicking around some ideas on what to do to try to help reward people that are significant contributors to the show. And so we'll have this thing up on the Patreon website. So it's patreon.com, patreon.com. And you just go on there and search for Mark of the Maker, and you'll end up finding the Patreon link. And we're going to try it. If people want us to help support the show, great. If you don't and you just want to listen, that's okay too. We're not going to beg for your money. But we have had people be very nice about offering and what can we do to help support the show, and because they like what we're trying to do.
We've been very hesitant to do it for a long time, but it's gotten to a point where we need to probably not pay to do it, which is kind of where we're at right now.
Right. And you guys have been helping with some of the merch and stuff, which is much appreciated. But we also don't want to be like trying to sell stuff to you all the time either. So
but we do appreciate you guys supporting us with the merchandise and stuff like that, because that has helped offset some of the cost of the podcast, just running it and stuff, the hosting and whatnot. But we appreciate you guys, and if you see fit, hit it up. If not, don't worry about it.
Right. So like I said, there are these different tiers, and there will be some cool things in there where, if you're a supporter, you can get early access to future merch things. We'll probably have a tier in there that allows people to participate at a little bit different level and maybe get some behind the scenes kind of stuff from the show, whether it's sound clips or maybe participate in a conversation about kind of the episode structure, or like what episode we might do next and stuff like that. So we're going to kick it around, play around for a little bit. I think it's something that people might enjoy and have fun with and be able to support the show at the same time. So go check it out. We'll post a link in the Facebook group to make it easy to find, and we'll take it from there. I got nice feedback from some people at Blade Show about the whole idea of it, right? Because I think it makes all of us feel a little bit self-conscious, the whole idea of taking money from people. And the folks that I talked to at Blade were like, no, that's dumb. Don't feel like that, because it's normal in podcast world. So
it still freaks me out, but it is normal. I'm still like, oh man, but we live in such a weird, GoFundMe type of time these days. Now I have a knee jerk to any sort of, oh man.
Yeah, we're going to set up a separate GoFundMe for the Mark of the Maker field trip to New York City.
Yeah, buddy. I will. Yeah. I will ask for that money.
Sounds fun.
Funny.
Top.
No, I agree.
Contributor gets a free Sean Kendrick knife. Guaranteed.
Dude, that's a great idea.
Whoa.
Guaranteed. It's on the podcast.
I like to make empty promises too. Yeah.
Too funny.
Podcast law means by law means he has to do it now. Pretty sure that's a thing.
Yeah. Good luck cashing that check.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it, right? Blade Show 2019.
Yeah.
It was a fun time. I really enjoyed seeing all you guys. We had a great experience, and I think we got lots of fantastic feedback. So thanks again to everybody for coming up and talking to us, telling us your thoughts about the show. I think almost all good, hopefully.
Goodish.
But goodish. Yeah, we had very nice feedback from people. So thank you for very thoughtful comments and telling us what the show means to you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So hopefully the clips we shared with you like last year give you a little bit of that feel from the floor at Blade Show. It was very, very cool of Chris and Jeremy and Luke and Billy to spend some time talking with us, and Brian Efros. Very, very kind to them to chat with us at Blade Show. So we always have fun doing that. We'll continue to do it. We might have a couple other fun things that we can do in the future with that. And we may have a couple special clips that we could share with some Patreon supporters. We get some funny stories from people. So anyway, as always, thanks for sticking with us, and hope you enjoyed some 2 cents from us about how Blade Show was this year. Definitely, if you get a chance, go to Blade Show. It's way cool.
Yeah.
In spite of all of our bitching early in the episode, it is a very fun experience, and there's nothing like hanging out with your friends for a crazy ass weekend. So that's always a winner.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.
Thank you, guys.
To learn more about our makers, you can find Tom Crine on the web at crineknives.net, in his Facebook group, Crine Knives, or in his Instagram account at Crine Knives. For Michael Birch, check birchtreeblades.com, Facebook group Birch Tree Blade Works, or Michael's Instagram at birchtreeblades. For myself and the Raygun Bead Project, we're on the web at raygundivision.com. We have a Facebook group called Raygun Division, or my personal Instagram at msteiner. For those interested in photos, references from the show, or some discussion about the show itself, you can find us on the web at markofthemaker.com, in a Facebook group called Mark of the Maker, or on our Instagram at Mark of the Maker. Last but not least, the ultra cool and haunting background music we use for the show is a piece called Noir Guitar by Stevie's Amp Shack, found at the Free Music Archive and licensed under Creative Commons CC BY 4.0. Thanks for listening.